Erwin Smith would not support the rumbling. You just don't like Armin. I don't have a fancy intro for this one, so the title of this video is gonna be the intro. I will say, however, before we get started, I want to lay down some ground rules. Number 1, anime only fans, I'm going to keep this as spoiler free as possible for you so you can watch this. I want this video to be open to everybody so everybody can hear why I think Erwin supporting the rumbling makes no sense for his character. And hopefully this video can nip that take in the bud, although let's be honest, it probably won't. But hey, if you see one of your friends saying that he would on the timeline, boom, just drop this in their replies. That's what most anti-manga analysis is used for nowadays anyway. Number 2. I will mention that I will be using panels and pages from the Attack on Titan manga while editing this video. Sometimes manga panels are easier to work with while I try to get my point across. That's all really. It's all going to be stuff that the anime has covered, except one. It's not a major spoiler, it's just Levi thinking about how Erwin and Armin are similar. It's not super important to the story from where the anime left off, but it's pretty important for this video, and you'll see why later. For now, let's just get started. Before we get to why Erwin wouldn't side with Eren, why do people think he would in the first place? I've seen plenty of people use the idea that he was a selfish man who put his dream above what's best for humanity, and we'll touch on that later too. But as for a specific moment that people point to as proof, it's this scene between Erwin and Levi at the end of season 3 part 1, where Levi asks Erwin what he plans to do after they retake Wall Maria, and Erwin responds with eliminating threats. Because Erwin said he wants to get rid of the people who want to see them eaten by titans, people view this as a no-brainer as to who he would side with. And now I want to bring up something that everyone knows but may not really think about how big of a deal it actually is. Erwin did not know about the outside world. Again, obvious, right? But it's important to mention here because in this moment, Erwin thought it was just one group trying to destroy them. If he had known the entire world was coming together to see them dead, he would not want to kill all of them. My first piece of evidence supporting this would be, well, the story itself. I know some of you just groaned right now, but stick with me. I got more reasons than just this. But for this case, I can't just ignore the story blatantly telling us that Erwin would not join the Jaegerist side had he still been alive. During the battle at Shiganshina, Erwin thought about the fallen scouts and the hearts they've all dedicated for humanity's freedom. That scene is directly paralleled with the scene we get during the rumbling with Hanji. In both instances, Erwin and Hanji recognize that it would be easy for them to just close their ears and run away from their responsibilities, especially since the both of them are so close to getting what they want. If Hanji just sits back, the people of Paradis are guaranteed to survive, and the basement Erwin wanted to see so badly is just on the other side of that wall. But they both know that the people who have died up until now are watching them, and they did not give their lives for something so selfish. Hold on. Pause for a minute. Who even is Hanji? Well, aside from being best girl, she's someone who's worked with Erwin for years. Someone that Erwin trusts a lot. So much so that Erwin himself names Hanji as the next commander of the Survey Corps after he thinks he's going to die. With all that in mind, Hanji should be a very reliable source of information for how Erwin would react in certain situations. But even so, despite the fact that Hanji straight up said that he wouldn't support it, fans still think at best she doesn't know what she's talking about, and at worst think this is all a retcon for Erwin's character. So enough hypothesizing about the things he would have done if he were still alive. Let's look at the things that he actually did during his time in the series. More specifically, let's analyze what he did in the Uprising arc. The reason why I want to focus on this arc in particular is because it's very similar to the Rumbling arc in a couple of ways. In both arcs, the world is coming down on the Scouts. During the Uprising, the monarchy held all of the power and made the world what it was up until that point. Without question, they were the representatives of the world. And during the Rumbling, the actual rest of the world came down on the island of Parody itself. In both arcs, the world wanted to take the power of the founding titan out of Eren's hands. In the Uprising, Historia is used as the answer to the Survey Corps' problems, while in the Rumbling arc, it's made clear that she can't be used as a get-out-of-jail-free card this time. Well, she can, but that would just involve her becoming the Beast Titan, breeding her to pop out as many babies as possible, and then have her die to pass down the power. The middle part? That sounds pretty fun. The beginning and end, though, not so much. So she can't do it unless they want to continue the cycle of suffering that the Rice family has kept up in order to keep their power. Speaking of which, in the Uprising arc, Rod supports Historia to try to make her become God, while in the Rumbling arc, Flock supports Eren to try to make him the devil. But most importantly, in both arcs, members of the Survey Corps decided to start a coup against the people in power to decide the fate of humanity inside of the walls. During the Uprising, Erwin is at the forefront of this coup against the monarchy, and what does he do? He wants to free the people within the walls without killing anybody. This already goes against how the Jaegerist handled things, since they straight up killed Commander Zackley, someone who Erwin worked with to help him in the Uprising arc, might I add. Erwin also acknowledges that he and the scouts could be the ones in the wrong for trying to rebel against the system, that they could be the ones who deserve to die because of what they're trying to do. Again, this is completely against how the Jaegerists operate, who don't even think twice about if they're right or wrong. Onyankopan makes it clear that the Jaegerists are hypocritical and xenophobic, and they don't care. They still think they're right no matter what. Erwin says that humanity won't stop fighting until the human race is down to one or less. Kiyomi, someone against the Rumbling, says almost the exact same thing to the leader of the Jaegerist himself, further cementing that Erwin's beliefs just don't match with what Eren and Flock are doing. When Erwin's plan works and the monarchy reveals that they aren't fit to rule, he doesn't celebrate. In fact, he believes that humanity has now taken a turn for the worst. The monarchy had knowledge the Survey Corps did not, and they used it to keep humanity safe all this time, even with all the blood they had to get on their hands to do so. And it's because of those things that makes Erwin unsure on if they would be any better. He even says, even if they were content to watch half of the surviving humans die, even that would be better than allowing all of humanity to go extinct. This is him straight up saying that even if a few people had to die, it would be better than damning all of mankind to death. To me, there is no way that Erwin would be okay with only the people of Parody surviving and all other humans being killed. Erwin's actions at the beginning, middle, and end of that arc have always been to prevent all of humanity from going extinct. Now, I'm not saying that the Uprising and the Rumbling are the exact same, but if we got to see how Erwin would react in a situation similar to the Rumbling arc, why would someone who cares about what's best for humanity suddenly be okay with wiping out the majority of it by directly helping a mass genocide? Remember when I said we'd touch on him? Remember when I said we'd touch on him putting his goal over the fate of humanity earlier? Here we are. Shout out to you for sticking around, by the way. Erwin has always been described as a man who puts himself over what's best for everyone else. Even in the Uprising arc, he's described as a selfish man multiple times. So on paper, yeah, it sounds like it would make sense for him to rock with Eren. But even with him constantly being described as selfish, even viewing himself as a con man who lied to people to get what he wants, his actions within the story should speak much louder than the words said about him, because his final moments in the series say a lot about who Erwin actually is. Earlier in the Battle of Shiganshina, even when he thinks about all of the corpses he's standing on top of because of his lies, he still thinks about how badly he wants to see that basement. He thinks about how even if they fail this mission, he could still make it to his goal. This is set up for what is without question the biggest moment Erwin has in the series. the charge against the Beast Titan. It's been established even before this war that Erwin doesn't care about the mission as much as he does the basement. And in this moment, he's put in a position where he could just abandon it all and get what he wants. Eren and his group are on the other side of the wall fighting the Colossal Titan. If Erwin and the rest of the scouts can't stop Zeke, the mission fails and humanity is doomed. The fate of the world lies in the hands of Erwin Smith, and he does come up with a way to stop it, but it would involve his death. With all of the buildup we've gotten about how selfish Erwin is, it only makes sense for him to become the man who sold the world. But what does he do? He becomes the man who saves it. Because just like he proved in the Uprising arc, despite how much he values his own life, he's still willing to die for the betterment of mankind. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on, okay? Hold on. Before you start angrily typing in the comments about how Erwin would never sit back and let the world kill him if he were still alive, that's not what I'm trying to say. Obviously, Erwin would still try to fight for peace with the people outside of the walls. I'm just saying he wouldn't go about doing that by just murdering all of them. He would fight for it as peacefully as possible, just like the Alliance is doing. Too many people think that the Alliance just wants to sacrifice the people of Parody and that they aren't trying to keep the peace in any way. It's one thing to disagree with them, it's another to think that they aren't even trying, you know? Erwin would go along with a small-scale rumbling to take out the Allied army's weapons just like Armin was. Hell, I'm sure he would have helped out in the attack on Marley as well. But there is no way he'd be fine with killing everyone. So many fans focus on the aspect of Erwin who is willing to sacrifice others for the sake of victory, and they don't focus on what that victory actually is. The survival of humanity! I've said it before, and I'll say it again to keep re-emphasizing my point. If Erwin, despite how selfish he is, never gave in to those desires and fought for the survival of humanity, why would he want to destroy it? And that brings me to the final point that I want to counter for this video. Eren himself. Because let's not forget, Eren was someone who also wanted to protect humanity at first. Then he realized what the world actually was. And when that happened, he was disappointed and he wanted to destroy it to get the freedom that he always wanted. If he can end up like that, what's stopping Erwin from behaving the same way? That would be because Erwin isn't similar to Eren. Who he is similar to is Armin. Yeah, that's right. The same guy a lot of you watching this video don't like is the same person who Erwin has the most in common with. For those of you who watched my last video on Annie, you'd know that I brought up that there was a reason why Armin was the first to understand why Erwin was in charge of the Survey Corps. That's because Erwin is the completed version of who Armin was being set up to be. A man who took chance after chance to try to get the upper hand on the enemy. A man who was willing to make the tough decisions in order to keep the most people safe at all times. A man who was capable of throwing everything away in order to change anything. That is the man who Armin was set up to become from the very first season. And that was the man who Erwin already was. It shouldn't be surprising then that after this moment, hell, you could argue even before this moment with Armin saving Eren and Mikasa, but especially after this moment with Armin thinking about who Erwin is, the similarities between the two start to become more apparent. Armin also starts taking risk after risk to help out because he and Erwin follow the same mindset. That being, if they allow themselves to be restrained by common sense, they'll never get the upper hand on their enemies. And because they're able to think outside of the box, stocks, their gambles end up paying off. Armin then starts to dirty his hands and leave behind his morals, just like Erwin. Both Armin and Erwin both share a similar dream of curiosity about the outside world. During Shiganshina, both Armin and Erwin could give up and escape with their lives, but they decide to sacrifice themselves for the sake of everyone else. Hell, even on a basic surface level, the two are the same. Let's just say when the final season returns, Hanji ends up getting injured or you know what, I'm not even gonna speak that into existence. Anyway, let's just say something happens to Hanji and Armin has to take over as the new leader. That would make Armin and Erwin two blondes who lead the Survey Corps that have Ackermans as their right hands in command. The entire point behind having to choose between Erwin and Armin is how difficult a decision that is because of how similar they are. I know a lot of people don't like Armin after the post-time skip, and they say that all he does is try to talk things out with people. And I get it. It doesn't help that he almost gave one of the Alliance's most valuable assets to a civilian either. Seriously, looking back on it, that Connie and Falco subplot was pretty dumb. But ultimately, I think Armin always wanting to talk things out is good. The Survey Corps has always been about searching for a broader understanding of the world. That's been a thing even back during Keith's time. And Erwin, just like Armin, always sought to find that understanding about the world. So to me, Armin trying to talk with and understand his enemies is nice, because his enemy is the world itself. Him constantly striving for an understanding embodies the essence of the Survey Corps perfectly. It's the reason why Levi chose Armin, because he had the same look in his eye that Erwin did. That was why he bet on him. Erwin's main dilemma came from him not being able to be there when they were going to make that big jump in understanding. But his purpose always was to gain that understanding of the outside world. I leave you with this. Erwin, as we've gone over, was a man who constantly took risks. And the one thing he was absolutely sure on in the entire series, the one person who he had no problem betting on, was Armin. At the end of the day, you could argue that we still don't know what Erwin would do if he were still here. Sure, fine, fair enough. After all, he did say that he didn't know what he'd do if he reached his goal. But there is so much evidence supporting the idea that Erwin wouldn't support the rumbling, that the fact that it's all being overlooked because Erwin sacrificed people, therefore he sacrificed humanity, is nuts to me. Listen, man, I don't care if you like Armin or not. At the end of the day, that's your preference. But I don't think we should jump as far as to say that things would be a lot better if Erwin were here because he would support mass genocide and not Armin. I don't know, that's just weird to me, but let me know down in the comments if I'm alone on that or not. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys later. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.